You're being lowballed right now. Not by your boss, not by your clients, not by the market, by yourself. Every time you shrink in a room, every time you accept less than you're worth, every time you laugh nervously at someone's disrespect instead of cutting them down where they stand, you're setting your own ransom, and you're setting it cheap. People treat you like a commodity because you introduced yourself as one. There's no villain in your story, no shadowy force holding you back. There's just you, walking into rooms with apologetic posture, sending emails that start with, "Sorry to bother you," waiting for someone, anyone, to validate your worth before you dare to claim it. Stop. Today, I'm going to tell you about a 25-year-old Roman who got kidnapped by the most feared pirates in the Mediterranean. Men who had crucified senators. Men who burned Roman warships in their own harbor. Men who answered to no law, no God, and no empire. They thought they captured a hostage. They had no idea they'd just imprisoned their own executioner. This is the Caesar Protocol. Pay attention. It will change the architecture of how you move through the world. The Aegean Sea. Julius Caesar is 25 years old. He's nobody yet. He has no army, no political office worth mentioning. His family name carries weight but no gold. He's sailing toward Rhodes to study rhetoric under Apollonius Milan, essentially going to school. The Cilician pirates don't care. These men are the organized crime syndicate of the ancient world. Operating out of the rocky coastline of modern-day Turkey, they control Mediterranean shipping lanes with brutal efficiency. They have a system, a price list, a senator, top tier, a minor nobleman, mid-range, a young Roman of ambiguous status sailing with a small retinue. 20 talents. For context, 20 talents of silver could feed a Roman family for generations. The pirates think they're being generous. They've assessed the asset, run the numbers, and stamped a value on Julius Caesar's skull. This is the moment most men break. The shock of capture, the humiliation of chains, the helplessness of being reduced to a transaction. Most men in Caesar's position would have wept, negotiated frantically, sent desperate letters home begging for coin. Most men would have played the victim because they already were the victim, and playing that role feels safe. Caesar did something else entirely. He laughed, not the nervous laughter of a frightened boy, the cold, contemptuous laughter of a man who has just realized the people threatening his life are fundamentally inferior to him, and finds the situation more insulting than dangerous. He told the pirates directly, without hesitation, 20 talents. I'm worth 50. Read that sentence again. A captive, in chains, surrounded by armed killers, with zero leverage and zero power, demanding more ransom. This is where most people's brains short-circuit, because we've been conditioned to believe that power flows from position, from title, from institutional backing, from the weapons in the other man's hands. Caesar knew the truth. Power flows from the frame you hold in your own mind. And he was not about to let a group of pirates write the first line of his story. Understand what Caesar did in that moment. He didn't negotiate. Negotiation implies you're operating inside someone else's framework, accepting their premise, arguing about the details. Caesar rejected the framework entirely. The pirate's framework. We have captured a valuable commodity. We set the price. He complies. Caesar's framework. You have the temporary inconvenience of holding something extraordinary. I will tell you what it costs. This is frame control, and it is the most powerful weapon in human interaction. A frame is the psychological context through which a situation is interpreted. Whoever controls the frame controls the reality of the exchange. The moment Caesar demanded a higher ransom, he didn't just increase a number. He restructured the entire psychological architecture of his captivity. He told the pirates, with that single act, that he was the authority in the room, that their assessment of his value was incorrect, that their power over his body was irrelevant to the question of his worth. And here's the dark genius of it. They believed him. They sent the letters. They waited. They agreed to seek 50 talents. Why? Because frame control is infectious. Because when a man holds his own reality with absolute conviction, doubt creeps into everyone around him. The pirates had seen fear before. They had seen begging. They had seen men shatter in their hands like dry clay. They had never seen a prisoner critique the quality of their ransom demand. The human brain is wired to defer to certainty. We are social animals, calibrating our reality against each other constantly. When Caesar projected absolute certainty about his own worth, the pirates' nervous systems did what nervous systems do in the presence of unshakable authority. They adjusted. This is the commodity to asset transition. The Caesar Protocol's first law. A commodity accepts the price placed on it. An asset sets its own price and holds the frame until the market adjusts. Caesar was held for approximately 38 days, while his men traveled to collect the ransom. 38 days as a prisoner. He spent them as a king. This is the part of the story that separates Caesar from every motivational poster you've ever seen. He didn't just endure captivity with dignity. He didn't quietly maintain his composure and wait for rescue. He colonized the social hierarchy of his own imprisonment. When the pirates were too loud at night, Caesar sent word for them to be quiet. He needed to sleep. They obliged. He wrote poetry and speeches during his captivity, and he would read them aloud to the pirates. If they didn't applaud with sufficient enthusiasm, he told them directly that they were illiterate brutes with no appreciation for greatness. He wasn't joking. There was no nervous edge to the insult. They laughed along with him. He exercised. He drilled. He issued informal commands. He participated in the pirates' games and athletic contests. And he dominated, because he trained not like a prisoner maintaining sanity, but like an officer maintaining readiness. Psychologists have a term for what happens when a prisoner begins to identify psychologically with their captor. Stockholm Syndrome. The captive stripped of power and dependent on their captor for survival, begins to see the captor as a protector, begins to adopt their captor's worldview, begins to shrink. Caesar engineered the exact reverse. Instead of shrinking toward his captor's reality, he expanded his own reality outward until it swallowed theirs. He didn't adapt to the pirates' world. He made the pirates adapt to his, day by day, command by command, correction by correction. This is the second law of the Caesar Protocol. The environment bends toward the person with the strongest internal frame. Never shrink to fit your circumstances. Expand until your circumstances fit you. The pirates weren't fools. They were dangerous, experienced criminals who had held hundreds of captives. But they had never encountered a man who simply refused to occupy the psychological role of prisoner. By week 3, they weren't treating him like a hostage. They were treating him like a demanding, slightly terrifying house guest. Throughout his captivity, Caesar had a recurring bit. He would tell the pirates, warmly, with great humor, almost affectionately, that once he was released, he was going to come back, capture every single one of them, and have them crucified. The pirates thought this was hilarious. Here's a 25-year-old with no army, no fleet, no official authority, making cheerful promises of execution to men who held his life in their hands. It was absurd. It was theatrical. It was the kind of bravado that makes for good entertainment around a fire at sea. Except Caesar was not making a joke. He was making a declaration. Understand the psychological function of this statement. Every time Caesar said it, he was reinforcing his own frame, not for the pirates, but for himself. He was rehearsing his future. He was treating his revenge as an inevitability that hadn't happened yet, not as a fantasy or a threat. In his own mind, the crucifixion of these men was already scheduled. He just hadn't gotten around to it. This is what separates high-frame individuals from everyone else. They speak their future into the present tense, not as wish, not as ambition, as logistical reality. The pirates laughed at the joke. Caesar updated his mental calendar. This is the third law of the Caesar Protocol. When you tell people what you're going to do, and they laugh, let them laugh. The laughter is just evidence they haven't understood you yet. Do not adjust your plans. Adjust nothing. Dark mercy is a concept worth understanding here. Caesar had spent 38 days treating these pirates with a kind of lordly warmth, eating with them, insulting them fondly, engaging them as subjects rather than enemies. There was something almost generous in his treatment of them. He gave them the gift of his presence, his wit, his competitive fire. And then he killed them all. Not out of rage, not out of trauma, with calm, efficient, pre-decided purpose. The mercy was always conditional. The warmth was real, but the judgment was already written. This is the nature of genuine power. It can afford warmth, because the warmth costs nothing and changes nothing. The verdict doesn't shift based on how much you like someone. The ransom was paid, Caesar was released. He went immediately to Miletus. On his own authority, no Senate approval, no military commission, no institutional backing. He assembled a small fleet and sailed back to where the pirates were anchored. They were still there. They hadn't moved. Because why would they? The boy was gone. The ransom was collected. Business as usual. Caesar's fleet surrounded them before they understood what was happening. He captured them. He took back the ransom. He transported them to the nearest Roman jurisdiction, Pergamon, and petitioned the governor, Marcus Juncus, to execute them. Juncus hesitated. There were legal complexities. The pirates had value as slaves. Perhaps this was something to deliberate. Caesar didn't wait for deliberation. He went to the prison. He had the pirates crucified himself. One detail, characteristically Caesar, is worth noting. He had told them, during the months of shared meals and poetry and athletic competitions, that out of respect for their company, he would cut their throats before the crucifixion. A mercy blow, so they wouldn't suffer the full process. He kept that promise. This is the architecture of the Caesar Protocol made flesh. The entire sequence, the ransom demand, the 38 days of sovereignty, the repeated declarations of future execution, the efficient return, the personal oversight of justice, is a single, unbroken, psychological structure. There are no contradictions in it, no loose threads, no moments where Caesar steps outside his own frame. The loop was opened in the moment he said, "I'm worth 50 talents." It was closed on a hillside in Pergamon with precise, unhurried violence. This is the fourth law of the Caesar Protocol. Always close your open loops. A threat unexecuted is a weakness displayed. A promise unkept is an identity eroded. Speak less. Do exactly what you said. You are not going to be kidnapped by pirates, but you are being held hostage right now by the salary you accepted without countering, by the relationship where you apologize first, always, by the friendship where you are perpetually the one who gives, by the professional context where you make yourself smaller, quieter, more palatable, because somewhere along the line, you decided that was the price of belonging. You accepted the 20 talents. Here is how you implement the Caesar Protocol in the architecture of your actual life. Step 1. Reject the first frame offered. In negotiations, in relationships, in social hierarchies, the first frame is almost never the real one. It's a probe. It's a test. The price offered first is the price for someone who doesn't know their worth. Don't accept it. Don't counter it directly. Reject the premise. Respond from your own frame entirely. Step 2. Occupy the social space. Caesar didn't hide in a corner of the pirate ship waiting for rescue. He moved through the space as if he owned it. In every room you enter, especially rooms where you feel outranked, move like you own it. Not arrogance. Sovereignty. There is a difference. Arrogance seeks validation. Sovereignty requires none. Step 3. Say what you're going to do. Do it. This is the most radical act available to you in a world full of people who make noise and produce nothing. Say the thing, then do the thing. Exactly as stated. The accumulation of kept promises to yourself is how self-worth is actually built. Not affirmations, not therapy journal entries. Execution. Step 4. Never negotiate from need. Need destroys frame instantly. Caesar was, objectively, in need. He needed his freedom. He needed the ransom paid. He needed to survive. He never once communicated need. He communicated assessment. There is always a version of your situation that you can present from a position of evaluation rather than desperation. Find it. Speak from there exclusively. Step 5. Close your loops without emotion. Caesar didn't execute the pirates in a rage. He did it as a logistical completion. The emotional energy had been spent long before, if it was ever spent at all. By the time he returned to the anchorage, it was just administration. This is the goal. Not to suppress emotion, but to make your decisions so far upstream that by the time execution arrives, it's simply a scheduled task. Caesar died decades later, stabbed 23 times on the floor of the Senate by men he considered allies. His story ends in betrayal, as most great stories do. But before all of that, before the Gallic Wars, before the Rubicon, before Et tu, Brute, there was a 25-year-old with no army, no office, and no power, sitting in chains on a pirate ship, telling his captors they had underpriced him, and being right. Your life is a series of frames. Someone is always trying to set yours for you. Your employer, your culture, your family, your own history of small defeats. The Caesar Protocol is not a self-help system. It is not a set of affirmations. It is a structural position. You are the authority on your own value, not the market, not your peers, not the pirates who currently have your hands tied. Set your price. Hold the frame. Close the loop. The rest is just administration. Subscribe if you want more frameworks that actually work. Next vid.